Hello girlies, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to show you how to do this cute summery oval set. I saw this set on Instagram and I wanted to recreate. I'll leave the person who I got the set from in my description. I'm going to hop right into my first Reddit story. Am I the a-hole for walking out of my engagement party and refusing to answer calls for 3 days? My now ex-boyfriend proposed 4 days ago. Let's call him Tim. Tim and I have been together for 2 years. We talked about marriage. We are both 26 and kids, etc. Until last week, I thought I had the perfect love life. Now, Tim has his best friend, Mimi. Tim also has a group he is very close to. The problem throughout our relationship was that Tim would place me last whenever his friends were involved. He missed a promotion dinner for my work because Mimi dog was throwing up. He missed celebrations with my family because his friends wanted him to paint their new house. Plus, some issues during his teenage years involving his friends resulted in his dad threatening to take away his inheritance and distribute it to relatives. For context, his dad introduced us until last year. Before I left the workplace, which I joined straight after college, his dad was my boss. I still see him as a father figure and respect him a lot. Now, I have outright told Tom that I don't like public proposals. I am very introverted, and having eyes on me during a loving moment will only cause me anxiety. Tim said that he understood and promised he wouldn't do one when he proposed. Another thing I told Tim was that Mimi treats me passive-aggressively. Because I'm kind of an anxious person, I have mild OCD and asked him to not involve her in our affairs. Tim said Mimi only wants the best for us. I kind of didn't press the issue after he got defensive. Thursday, after I entered my flat, I was greeted by all of Tim's friends, with Tim in a suit and a ring in hand. I kid you not, my flat was swarmed. There were people I didn't even know. Before Tim even said anything, Mimi chimed in and said, "Chill, OP. Dear God, this is not the time to make that face." I saw red. I was having a severe anxiety attack, as I don't do well with lots of people. I calmly told them that there would be no proposal and to get the hell out of my flat. They looked like in shock. So I left the flat with just my purse, called my best friend on the way, and told her to get them out, and just called a car service and sat in the car, crying for 2 hours, and went to my cabin I brought. I texted my parents so they wouldn't worry and told them not to take Tim's calls, switched off my phone and stayed there. Luckily, I had enough cash to make a grocery run, and the cabin was used last month. I only switched my phone on when I was calling a car and saw the barrage of calls and texts. I called Tim in the car, and he sounded defeated and kept on apologizing and crying. I told him it was over. Turns out my best friend told his dad, who was so mad, he told him that he would only get half his inheritance. I now feel like I reacted very badly and could have handled it with grace. I might have just let my anxiety take over and overreacted, and I cost Tim his money. Am I the a-hole? Edit. My ex-boyfriend and I are both Indians. One of the reasons why Tim's dad likes me is that I am from the same culture, though I am not comfortable with this reasoning. I am a lawyer and make enough money to buy and maintain a flat and cabin. Tim only has access to my flat. Update. Most people in my previous post said that it wasn't my fault, and after properly speaking to my family and friends, I realized that I was indeed not that wrong. The bit about changing the locks, I'll get to that later, but my best friend, who is staying with me for a few days, said that she checked and everything in my flat was in the right place, so I guess that's one problem less. People who keep sending me DMs saying it is fake because I own a cabin, I have no answer to that. Yes, I make enough money to live comfortably on my own and also have an extra place that I like to go to alone. And to some really funny gentlemen who have sent me more DMs on how I'd never find a husband if I didn't learn to keep my mouth shut, please eat crap. I don't have the mental space to argue with incels right now. For the main update, I went and spoke to Tim's dad first. He was very mad at his son. He kept saying that Tim had finally crossed limits with the group and asked me to forgive his son. I respectfully told him that even if I got back with his son, my dad wouldn't approve, which was true, and I said that. Because I knew for Tim's dad, my dad's opinion mattered more. His dad then said that he was deeply sorry and that he would still support me if I needed help in the future. And I decided to take the things he left at my flat to him because I didn't want him over mine again. Tim said he was very sorry, that he hadn't thought I was being genuine about my social anxiety. He has seen me get panic attacks in crowds, and he thought that his friends' enthusiasm would be a positive thing. I asked him why none of my friends were there, and he said that because I have a very small number of friends, I thought we would have a nice dinner with them to share the news. Not gonna lie, his words hurt because his friends deserved to be at the proposal, but mine didn't because there were only 5 of them. Tim also mentioned that Mimi didn't like one of my friends because she was a single mom, and it just made me even more mad. I told him that he would be better off marrying Mimi because it was quite clear everything in his life was about her. I told him that he was a crappy partner, and the reason why I wouldn't marry him and his dad is going to cut off his money is because he let Mimi bully me throughout our relationship, and it was Mimi's words that made me leave the proposal. Tim looked very hurt and started apologizing. He also said that he never cheated on me, that he loved me, and he promised to do better. I told him I'd give him a chance if he cut off every one of his friends and moved with me to another city. He started crying at that and said he possibly couldn't live that way and asked me to reconsider. I told him I knew he would never choose me over his friends, and I was feeling very petty, so I told him that Mimi would also never choose him over her successful boyfriend, nor would any of his friends choose him over their families. He told me he was very sorry and that he would limit contact with them, but I told him there was no way I was going to be with him. I dropped his things off and I wanted to cry. He wouldn't even get up off the sofa or apologize or say he wouldn't speak to Mimi again. He just turned his face away. I left. Mimi later came by to my flat and asked if we could talk, so I let her in. My friend says it was dumb, but I was working and crying at the same time, so I wasn't thinking much. She said that Tim yelled at her for ruining his relationship, and she didn't know what she did wrong. I honestly had zero energy for her and just told her if she was done talking to please leave. Mimi said that she wanted to be there for Tim, and me making his dad cut him off was an awful thing to do. I then asked why she made a comment she knew would piss me off when I was being proposed to. Mimi replied that it was a joke and I shouldn't have taken her seriously. I just asked her to leave after that. She said she hoped I would be happy in the future, so I guess that was it. All of Tim's friends' numbers are blocked, including Mimi's. I blocked Tim, and I'll get the locks changed next week. I wish I could write something positive here, but alas, hopefully there will be no more updates on this. Story 2. I, 26 female, thought my husband, 27 male, was cheating. I followed him on his work trip, and he was not. Now what? My husband, 27 male, and I, 26 female, have been together for 5 years, and we have been married for just over 3 years, and we have a baby boy who is almost 2 years old. We are hoping to have a second child soon. We have a really good marriage, and there's a lot of quality emotional, physical, and sexual intimacy, and he's a great father as well. However, I think I may have just ruined it all. A friend of mine works in the same department of the company as my husband, and they occasionally run into each other, but they have never worked together. 3 weeks ago, she called and told me that my husband had a work wife, someone of our age who joined the company 3 months ago on my husband's team, and advised me to be suspicious. She showed me pictures and videos that she had taken of my husband with his alleged work wife, and none of it looked particularly alarming and looked like normal interactions between coworkers. My husband has mentioned her before and said that they are working on the same projects. He would have to help her get up to speed, and they would be occasionally working together. My husband and I both have had an open device policy, so I looked through his phone that evening and found only work-related texts and emails between them. I asked my husband about it and let him know that my friend had mentioned him working with the work wife. My husband laughed and reassured me and said it was purely work, told me there's nothing to be worried about. I trust him fully, so I dropped it and told my friend that there was nothing going on between them. My friend was adamant that there was at least an emotional affair going on, and it would turn physical if they got the chance, and I asked her for solid proof. There are no signs of my husband cheating from my perspective. He wasn't hiding his phone, mysteriously going out, and he was emotionally present at home, and we were getting intimate very often as well. However, for the next week, my friend would text me every day that they were doing this and that, but there was simply no proof. I grew tired of this and told my friend to either send me actual proof of something going on or stop. I was still periodically checking my husband's phone and laptop, but never found anything. She told me that to her knowledge, they hadn't kissed or even hugged, but there was definitely something brewing there. But she would stop telling me if she just simply saw a conversation between the two. That week, my husband was given a promotion, meaning his current team, including the alleged work wife, will be directly working under him starting in a few weeks. We celebrated that night, and I basically forgot all about what my friend had been saying until the next day, where my husband came home with a bottle of red wine with a taped sticky note congratulating my husband on the promotion with a little heart at the end of the message. I went ballistic at my husband for the first time that day and accused him of cheating and said horrible things that I never should have said to him. He denied everything. Again, there was no proof that my husband was cheating, and he was emotionally and physically as present as ever. I apologized to him the next day, and we made up. This week, my husband had to go on a work trip for 3 days. Not the whole week due to it being the 4th of July. With 3 other people, including the work wife, he doesn't travel for work often, and I was again suspicious if something was going on and made up my mind to follow my husband and to see for myself if anything was going on. He had a choice between taking a 1.5-hour flight and or a 5-hour drive, and my husband, being the car fanatic he is, chose the 5-hour drive. I told my best friend, different friend, about the situation, and she warned me that if my husband wasn't cheating, I would regret doing this, but she did agree to look after our son for a few days. After he left, I rented a car and also drove to the city he was going to. I trusted that if something was going on, nothing would happen in the office and they would wait to get back to the hotel. For 3 days and 2 nights, I tracked his location and observed from a distance, and nothing ever happened. Both days, my husband would have a drink at dinner with the other 3 colleagues, and then he would go back to the hotel room, call me, and on the 3rd day, he drove back home after work. I made excuses as to why we couldn't FaceTime, and we would just talk on a voice call for a few minutes. I drove back on the 3rd morning, and I was relieved that my husband was loyal to me. But I have had an overwhelming sense of guilt and self-disgust for breaching my husband's privacy and trust ever since. When my husband came home, I had his favorite meal prepared and just hugged him as tight as I possibly could. It's been 24 hours since he came home, and we went to a 4th of July show today. But all I have been thinking about is what I did. I told my best friend about how guilty and ashamed I feel, and she gave me an ultimatum that either I tell my husband about how I stalked him during his business trip, or she would tell him. I know what I did was wrong. I knew it was wrong when I was doing it, but I needed to know for my own sanity. What do I do now? Story 3. Family that left me on the streets at 16, now 30 years later, want to apologize and make up for lost time. Okay, as a mild lurker on Reddit, thought I would share my story and newest development in my life after 30 years. Might be a bit long, but will do my very best to give you context without too much fluff. Hope this is the right sub. So I lost my mom when I was 12 to breast cancer, so that just left me and my dad. It was a tough time, but we got through it together. When I was 14, my dad met and married my stepmom, Ashley, who brought with her my stepbrother, Mark, 14, and stepsister, Emily, 12. I got along with Ashley and Emily really well, but Mark not so much. He and I were always getting into arguments and fights. I was always told by my dad to give Mark a break because he's been the man of his house for a while. So this is all new. Like, somehow it isn't new for me too. Anyways, when I was 15, I met a girl at school, Lisa, and we started dating, as much as one can date at 15. However, Mark apparently had a crush on her and was mad that I asked her out. He started a fight over it, in which my dad had to intervene once again, and somehow I was made to be the bad guy. One day after my 16th birthday, my stepmom was putting away my laundry and started yelling, which was awkward because my girlfriend Lisa was there. We all ran thinking the worst. When we got to my room, my stepmom was holding several pairs of my sister's underwear, yelling at me why they were in my drawer. I had no answer as I've never seen them before. Of course, no one believed me, no matter how much protesting I did. Then Mark piped up saying he always caught me staring at his sister, thought it was creepy, and caught me once saying I wish I could marry her. Obviously lying, but that was all it took. Lisa slapped me and called me a perv and told me we were done and walked out. My dad grabbed me by the arm and threw me out the house, yelling at me that he wasn't going to put his daughter at risk from a perv. Not the word he used, but you get it. I banged on the door to be let in, crying and telling them it was all lies told by Mark. My dad apparently had enough. I heard the locks. He opened the door, shoved me to the ground, and told me to get lost. I told him I had nowhere to go. He said that wasn't his problem, then closed the door. I found myself on the street with nothing to my name, no place to go. I tried calling my dad's parents, but he had already called them and told me they won't help a perv. My mom's parents passed away before I was born. Well, I lived on the streets for 2 years, doing what I had to do in order to survive. No kid should have to have done what I had to do in order just to live. Just saying. There were some really dark days. Lots of therapy later in life helped me with this. Shortly after I turned 18, I found a job working at a boxing gym, states away from where I began this horrible journey. I worked there for years, learned the sport, never gonna beat Mike Tyson, but was good at the sport, which helped me with my hate and anger. Then one day, met a new girl, Amy, 20 female, at the cafe down the street from the gym. At this point, I was 35. I know, huge age gap, but we just clicked. I don't believe in fate or soulmates or any of that stuff like that. But if there is a such thing, we had it. Don't know how else to put it. We dated for 2 years and then got married. Her dad was an electrician and hired me on afterwards. I think mostly to know I would be able to support his daughter and know I was going to do right by her, but also in case he needed to keep me in check. He never said this, but as a dad, I get it now. Well, 15 years later, we are still together with 4 beautiful daughters. I just passed my master license as an electrician, thanks to my wife for pushing me to get my GED. She has been my rock, my cheerleader, my overall support through all of this, and I can't tell her enough how much she changed my life and how much I love her. Anyway, sorry for the tangent. So just this last weekend, I received an email from my stepsister. Not sure how she got my email address, but I know it isn't hard via the internet. Not like I've been hiding. Mind you now, I'm pushing 53, so it's been 30 plus years since I've heard from any of them. It was a long email. Not going to give you all of it, but the meat of it is this. They now know what really happened. Mark, I guess, was busy drinking with his buddies on Friday, and somehow my name was mentioned. Mark, I guess, started bragging about how he set me up and took my girl. Yep, Mark and Lisa got together, married, all those years ago. They were all laughing, hoping I died on the streets. Bunch of rude and vile stuff. Guess he forgot Lisa was there and she heard it all. So she called my stepsister to let her know. And so Emily spent all weekend trying to find me. Like I said, the email was long. Short of it is, they want to apologize face to face, although it was already said in email multiple times and want to make up for lost time. I'm, however, indifferent to the idea. Like, I have no ill feelings towards her. She obviously was young and had no real say in the matter, but with lots and lots of therapy, I learned to let go of the hate and anger and to let go of them. As well, with all the love I received from my kids, wife, and in-laws. It's all I really need. I'm of the idea of just deleting the email and moving on like nothing happened. My wife thinks I should at least respond back, even if to say something snarky like, "Thanks for finally believing me. Only took you over 30 years. Did I mention my wife has a mean petty streak to her? Laugh out loud. She's awesome. Update. First, I want to thank everyone for their kind words and advice. I wasn't looking for advice, just wanted a place to share my story. To those who gave me credit for overcoming everything, thank you. However, the wife thinks she deserves most of it. Laugh out loud, and in all honesty, she does. Okay, for the update. Gonna post more of the original email as a lot of you have requested. Kept out some of the deep personal info, but majority of it is there. Might have to break it up due to character limit. His response to the email from Emily. Dear Emily, I appreciate you taking the time to reach out to me, but I must be honest with you, the years of pain and hurt caused by the lies and manipulation by Mark and the betrayal by Dad have left deep scars that will never truly be healed. While I understand that you are now aware of the truth and are genuinely sorry for what has transpired, I find it difficult to simply forgive and forget. The betrayal and abandonment I have experienced at the hands of my own family have left me with a sense of distrust and resentment that can never be overcome. The damage that has been done has impacted me in ways that you may never fully and truly understand, and the idea of trying to reconcile now feels like an insurmountable task. I have spent years in therapy trying to come to terms with the pain and deep trauma I have endured, and I have worked hard to build a wonderful life for myself that does not rely on the presence or approval of those who turn their backs on me. While I am grateful for the apology and the newfound awareness of the truth, I do not feel compelled to rekindle a relationship that was built on lies, deception, and betrayal, especially after all these years. I have found peace and closure in distancing myself from those who caused me harm, and I do not see the need to reopen old wounds in the name of reconciliation. While I believe in the power of forgiveness, that isn't something I can give. I wish you all the best in your life, I really do, but I must prioritize my emotional health and self-preservation above all else. I hope you can respect my decision and understand that the wounds of the past will take a lifetime to heal. I would appreciate if you pass this fact on to the others, and please don't reach out again. I must look out for my future and not my past. Sincerely, OP. Okay, ladies, that's all for today. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.
Just to put you in for a while, some other stuff.